Welcome, dear friend, to this quiet corner of our shared world, and a profound thank you for choosing to rest your mind with us for a while. We have prepared for you a story spun from stillness and soft light, a gentle tale crafted with the simple hope of being a warm, comforting blanket for your thoughts, helping you to find that peaceful path toward slumber. If, as you journey into the silent workshop with us, you feel a sense of gentle contentment, please do feel welcome to lend your support by liking this story and subscribing to our channel, and perhaps leaving a kind word before you drift away. Before we learn to mend the world's frayed quiet, we shall first pause for a moment of shared breath, allowing the day to settle. Let us now find our way to true comfort, settling into our resting place as if we were a well-loved book being returned to a favorite familiar shelf. Feel the gentle support of your mattress and pillows, a soft and sturdy foundation that allows every part of you to feel held and wonderfully at ease. You might pull your blankets a little closer, a soft cocoon of warmth, creating a small, safe haven just for you. This is a time given wholly to peace, a gentle pilgrimage where the day's busy thoughts can finally unfurl and drift away, inviting a quiet calm to settle in your heart, as deep and pervasive as the ancient silence held within the workshop itself. Now, let us share a quiet breath together, like the slow, contented sigh of the world settling for the night. Gently, slowly, draw the air in through your nose, imagining it as a soft, silvery light, cool and clean, filling every small space within you with ease. Then, release it just as softly through your mouth, a warm, quiet stream, carrying away any lingering tightness. With each slow, easy breath, you may feel your body softening, much like warm wax, releasing any small knots of care you might have held. Imagine the clean, sweet fragrance of beeswax, the faint herbal scent of chamomile, and the grounding scent of old wood that has been warm for a very long time, hushing the small, lingering noises of your day. If, by chance, your thoughts should begin to flutter like tiny moths around a soft light, that is perfectly all right, dear one. Simply notice them with a gentle kindness, as you might notice a leaf drifting down a slow current, and then guide your attention back to the steady, peaceful rhythm of your breath or to the quiet comfort of my voice. There is nothing left for you to do now, save for listening and allowing the story to be a gentle vessel, carrying you toward the deep and restorative rest that you so richly deserve. Feel the soft hum of the mended silences, a vibration that resonates with the very song of patience, gently coaxing your own body into a state of profound ease. Let us begin our quiet journey into the heart of the workshop, where the weavers of warmth await to guide you into a serene and deeply peaceful sleep. Chapter 1. The Door of Unheard Knocks. There are some places in the world that one cannot find with a map, for their location is not a point in space, but a quality of being. The workshop of quietude was one such place. Oren had found it not by following roads or landmarks, but by following a path of ever-deepening silence. It had begun in a bustling town, where Oren had first noticed a small sheltered alleyway where the clatter of carts seemed to soften. Following this gentle pull, the path led out of the town and into fields of soft grasses, where the whisper of the wind in the reeds grew quieter and quieter, until at last there was only a profound and peaceful hush. It was here, in the center of that stillness, that Oren found the door. It was a simple door of dark, smooth wood set into the side of a gently sloping hill with no handle and no knocker. It seemed a part of the earth itself, as ancient and unassuming as the hillock it occupied. Oren had heard the stories, of course, tales told by those who cherished quiet things. The door, the story said, did not open to a knock, nor to a push, but only to a moment of perfect, intentional stillness from the one who sought entry. So Oren stood before it, quieting the breath, stilling the small, anxious flutter of the heart, and focusing only on the deep, calm silence that surrounded the hill. For a long, peaceful moment, Oren simply was, and with a soft, internal click, as if a thought had turned a lock, the door swung silently inward. The air that flowed out to greet Oren was a marvel. It was warm, first of all, with the gentle, radiant heat of a well-tended hearth. But it was the scent that was so captivating, a wonderful and complex perfume of melting beeswax, dried chamomile flowers, and the clean, grounding fragrance of very old, well-cared-for wood. It was the smell of peace itself, a scent that promised comfort and welcome. It drew Oren inside, and the door swung silently shut behind them, sealing the world of wind and weather away, leaving only the profound calm of the workshop. The space within was a large circular room with a high domed ceiling made of dark polished wood that seemed to drink the light and the sound. The only illumination came from several hooded lanterns placed carefully on ledges and workbenches, which cast a low, steady golden light that never flickered. The warmth came from a large, round hearth in the center of the room, made not of harsh material, but of smooth, pale clay that radiated a gentle, comforting heat. The entire room felt like a warm, safe hug, a sanctuary built to hold and protect the quiet. Draped over wide, smooth-topped tables and hanging from wooden frames were the most wondrous things Oren had ever seen. They were great, shimmering webs of faint light, like enormous, intricate snowflakes woven from mist and soft radiance. Some glowed with a steady, serene light, while others, Oren noticed, had parts that flickered with a discordant, unsteady pulse, as if a small, frantic moth were trapped within the light. These, Oren knew, were the frayed silences, the very reason for this place's existence. A figure emerged from the soft shadows of an adjoining room, moving with an unhurried grace that seemed to be a part of the workshop's own stillness. This was Kale, the master artisan. They were of an age that was impossible to guess, with kind eyes that seemed to hold the same steady, gentle light as the lanterns. They offered Oren not a cascade of questions, but a simple, slow nod and a small, welcoming smile that crinkled the corners of their eyes. The gesture was a complete and perfect welcome, needing no words to adorn it. Kale gestured toward a pair of comfortable-looking wooden chairs near the clay hearth, their seats covered with thick, soft cushions of undyed wool. Oren sat, feeling the gentle warmth of the hearth seep into their back, loosening muscles they hadn't even realized were tense. The air itself seemed to have a soft, comforting weight to it, a quality that encouraged the shoulders to drop and the breath to deepen. The profound, unbroken silence of the room was not empty. It was rich and full, a tangible presence that seemed to wrap around you like the softest of blankets. In this place, it felt as though time itself had slowed to a gentle, meandering pace. There was no urgency, no sense of needing to do or say anything. It was enough to simply sit, to breathe in the wonderful calming air and to observe the gentle glowing tapestries of light that filled the room. Oren felt a lifetime of sensitivity to harsh, jarring noises begin to recede, replaced by a feeling of coming home to a place that understood, a place built from the very essence of the peace they had always sought. This was the beginning of learning, not with books or lectures, but with stillness and being. Chapter 2. The Threads of Patience. After a time of shared, comfortable quiet, Cale rose with that same fluid, unhurried motion and went to a small alcove where a kettle sat warming by the hearth's edge. The only sounds were the soft scuff of Cale's slippers on the wooden floor and the gentle, almost inaudible sigh of steam from the kettle's spout. Cale returned with 2 simple earthenware mugs, their surfaces warm and pleasingly smooth. They placed one in Oren's hands. The steam that rose from it carried the sweet, apple-like fragrance of chamomile, a scent that was a promise of calm. They sat together again, sipping the warm, soothing tea. Its gentle flavor seemed to wash away the last remnants of the outside world, grounding Oren completely in the peaceful here and now. Cale then reached over to one of the smaller tables and with great care lifted a small, shimmering fabric of light. It was no bigger than a handkerchief, a delicate, intricate web that glowed with a soft white light. Cale laid it gently on the dark wood of the table between them. This, Oren saw, was a frayed silence. Near its center was a jarring, discordant gap, a tear in the fabric of peace that spasmed with a pale, erratic pulse, a tiny silent scream of a sudden, sharp noise. Observing it, Oren felt a familiar pang of sympathy, the same feeling a jarring clang or a sudden shout always evoked. But here, the feeling was not overwhelming, for the workshop's deep calm held it and softened it. Cale then showed Oren the tools of their craft. From a long, slender wooden box, they produced a needle, but it was like no needle Oren had ever seen. It was carved, it seemed, from a single solid piece of starlight, cool to the touch and perfectly, impossibly smooth. It seemed to absorb the lantern light and give it back with a soft, internal luminescence. Next, Cale gestured to several large round baskets resting on low shelves. They were filled with what looked like heaps of the finest, most delicate yarn. These were the threads of quietude. Cale took a small handful and offered them to Oren. As Oren reached out, they were surprised by the sensation. The threads were not weightless as they appeared. They had a soft, reassuring heft, and they were not dry but felt cool and smooth, like holding a solid piece of mist or a strand of pure running water. And most wonderfully, they hummed. It was a vibration so low and gentle it was barely there, a peaceful, resonant frequency that traveled from the fingertips up into the palm, deeply calming. Oren's first lesson was not to mend, but simply to sit and become acquainted with these marvelous materials. Cale encouraged them with a simple, quiet gesture to hold a single thread. Oren selected one that glowed with a soft, silvery light. They held it cupped in both hands, closing their eyes and focusing on its nature. The thread's low hum seemed to find a corresponding rhythm deep within Oren's own chest, a gentle vibration that soothed and centered the mind. The texture was smooth and yielding, a constant pleasant coolness against the skin. Oren spent a long, peaceful time just like this, holding the thread, breathing in the warm, chamomile-scented air, and feeling the deep, abiding quiet of the workshop. Kale sat nearby, working on a large tapestry of silence, with slow, deliberate movements, their presence a comforting and reassuring anchor. There was no pressure to learn quickly, no expectation of immediate mastery. The lesson was in the patience itself, in the quiet act of becoming familiar with the very substance of peace. Oren began to notice the subtle differences in the threads Kale used. Some had a low, steady hum, while others had a slightly higher, almost melodic vibration. Some glowed with a warm golden light, while others were a cool, pearlescent white. Kale seemed to know instinctively which thread was needed for which fray, their hands moving with the certainty of long and loving practice. Oren watched, not with an anxious desire to emulate, but with a quiet, appreciative wonder. As the warmth of the tea and the gentle hum of the thread worked their magic, Oren felt a profound sense of relaxation settle over them. The very act of holding this strand of pure quietude felt like a form of mending in itself, smoothing out the small, frayed edges of their own thoughts and worries. It was a lesson taught without a single word, a truth conveyed through texture, temperature, and gentle vibration. To mend a world's quiet, one must first learn to hold it gently in one's own hands. Chapter 3. The First Careful Stitch. When Kale judged the time to be right, they gestured again to the small, frayed silence laid out upon the dark wood table. The discordant, flickering pulse in its center seemed to call for attention, a tiny knot of unrest in the otherwise peaceful room. Kale picked up one of the needles of starlight and a single silvery thread of quietude. They did not speak, but instead demonstrated the first step with a movement so slow and graceful it was like watching a dance. They threaded the needle not by pushing the thread through an eye, but by simply touching the thread's tip to the needle's end. The two substances seemed to recognize each other, flowing together and becoming one. Then Kale offered the threaded needle to Oren. The tool felt cool and light, yet purposeful in the hand. Its surface was so smooth it felt almost liquid. Oren took a slow, calming breath, their gaze fixed on the small tear in the glowing fabric. A flicker of apprehension, a fear of doing it wrong, of making the tear worse, arose in their mind. Kale, seeming to sense this, placed a gentle, warm hand on Oren's shoulder for just a moment. The simple, kind touch was enough. It spoke of patience and trust, and the apprehension melted away, replaced by a quiet, focused resolve. The work was unlike any sewing or mending Oren had ever known. The goal, Kale's posture seemed to communicate, was not to pull the frayed edges together with force. It was a delicate process of introduction, of coaxing. Oren brought the tip of the needle to the edge of the healthy, glowing fabric just beside the tear. With the gentlest of pressure, they pushed the needle through. It made no sound at all, not even a whisper. There was no resistance, only a feeling of smooth, effortless passage. Like pushing a hand through still water, it felt less like piercing something and more like joining with it. Oren drew the needle through, and the thread of quietude followed, a trail of soft, silvery light. They guided it across the gap and into the other side, creating a single luminous bridge. The effect was immediate and wonderful. The frantic, pale flickering at the edge of the tear did not stop, but it softened. Its rhythm, once jarring and erratic, slowed to a less anxious pulse. It was as if the presence of the whole healthy thread of quietude had reminded the frayed edges of their true nature, whispering a suggestion of peace to them. Encouraged, Oren made another stitch, and then another. The process was deeply meditative. All of Oren's attention narrowed to the task at hand. The smooth, cool feel of the needle, the soft, low hum of the thread, the gentle glow of the fabric. The rest of the world fell away. The workshop, Cale, even their own bodies seemed to fade into a soft, warm background. There was only the quiet, repetitive, and deeply satisfying motion of the work. The rhythm of the stitches seemed to sync with Oren's own breathing, which became slow, deep, and even without any conscious effort. With each new thread woven into the tapestry, the discordant pulse in the tear grew weaker, slower, and softer. The pale, frantic light was being gentled, absorbed into the calm, steady glow of the new mends. Oren could feel the change not just with their eyes, but within themselves. The focus and calm required for the work seemed to be performing a similar mending on their own mind, smoothing out the frayed edges of thought and worry, weaving in a sense of deep internal peace. Finally, only a tiny spot remained. Oren made the last careful stitch, drawing the thread of quietude through the center of what was once the tear. For a moment, there was a final soft flicker. Then it was gone. The entire fabric, from edge to edge, now glowed with a single steady and unbroken light. It was whole. A soft, contented sigh escaped Oren's lips, a breath they hadn't realized they were holding. They had not just repaired a thing, they had restored a piece of peace to the world. Cale nodded slowly, their eyes filled with a quiet, gentle approval. They took the small, mended silence and held it up to the lantern light. It shone with a serene, beautiful radiance, perfect and complete. Oren felt a warmth spread through their chest, a quiet joy that was as gentle and steady as the light from the fabric they now held. It was the deep satisfaction of a quiet task, done with care and patience, and it was the most wonderful feeling in the world. Chapter 4. The Scent of Mended Stillness. In the cycles of quiet work that followed, Oren discovered that the craft of mending was a journey into a world of incredible subtlety. Under Cale's gentle, nonverbal guidance, Oren learned that every silence was unique, a delicate entity with its own distinct character. Just as no two snowflakes are alike, no two moments of quiet were ever identical. This individuality was expressed not only in the color and texture of their light, but in a way Oren had never expected, through scent. One morning, after a period of silent meditation by the clay hearth, Cale brought Oren a new piece to work on. It was a large rectangular tapestry, about the size of a small blanket, and it was frayed in several places. The light it emitted was a crisp, brilliant white, and when Oren leaned close, they were met with the most remarkable aroma, the clean, cold, and utterly pure scent of a deep, untouched, snow-covered field at twilight. The feeling of the fabric was different, too. It was smooth and almost brittle, like a thin sheet of new ice. Mending it required a thread that Cale provided from a special insulated basket, a thread that felt cool to the touch and hummed with a high, clear note. Another time, the frayed silence was a small, round piece that glowed with a soft, warm, golden brown light. Its feel was thick and yielding, like a piece of well-worn soft wool. Its wonderful scent was that of freshly baked bread, warm milk, and a hint of wood smoke. Cale communicated through a simple gesture of two hands held together in friendship that this was the comfortable, easy quiet shared between two old friends sitting by a fire. The threads for this mend were warm and pulsed with a low, slow, purring vibration that made Oren's hands feel heavy and relaxed. The greatest challenge and the greatest joy came when Cale presented Oren with the silence of a vast, ancient library. It was an immense hanging, so large it required its own standing frame. Its light was a soft, diffused gold, like afternoon sun through a high, dusty window, and it was riddled with small, flickering tears caused by the occasional dropped book or loud cough over many years. The scent that emanated from it was a complex and beautiful perfume of old paper, dry leather bindings, and polished wood. It was the scent of knowledge and peaceful contemplation. Oren worked on this piece for many, many cycles. It was a slow, meditative process that required deep concentration. They used dozens of different threads, some that hummed with the quiet rustle of turning pages, others that vibrated with the deep, resonant silence of a sleeping cathedral. With each tear that was mended, Oren felt a growing connection to the place this silence had come from, a deep appreciation for all the quiet hours of study and wonder it represented. As the final gap was closed, something truly magical happened. The entire tapestry, now whole and unbroken, seemed to take a slow, deep breath. Its golden light brightened for a moment, becoming steady and strong, and it released a profound wave of its signature scent. The entire workshop filled with the comforting, peaceful aroma of the great library, a scent so evocative and serene it seemed to still the very air. Oren stood back, gazing at their work, feeling an overwhelming sense of accomplishment and peace. This was the true gift of the mender. It was not just a craft of repair, but one of preservation and celebration. By making the silence whole again, they allowed its unique, beautiful character to be fully expressed. They were curators of quiet, gardeners of peace. Each mended piece became a source of tranquility, its steady glow and gentle scent adding to the profound, layered calm of the workshop. Oren felt a deep and quiet happiness, the joy of someone who has found their true and gentle purpose in the world. Chapter 5. A Silence Woven Whole. A time came when Cale approached Oren, not with a frayed silence from the workshop's collection, but with an empty wooden frame. Beside it, on the workbench, lay a single dark, shimmering thread that pulsed with a faint, agitated flicker. Cale's gesture was simple but clear. This was a new silence, freshly damaged, and it was Oren's to mend from this first jarring thread to its final peaceful wholeness. It was the quiet that falls in the moments just before the dawn, a fragile piece that had been torn by the distant early clamor of a waking city. Oren felt a quiet thrum of anticipation, not of anxiety, but of gentle readiness. They spent a long time simply observing that first wounded thread, feeling its hurried, uneven pulse, attuning themselves to its specific hurt. Then, with the knowledge they had so patiently gained, they began the work. They selected the first mending thread, one that felt like cool, damp air and hummed with the sound of the last fading cricket of the night. The first stitch was made with the utmost care, a gentle offering of peace to the frayed edge. The workshop remained a haven of profound quiet around them. Sometimes Cale would be there working on their own projects, their serene presence a comforting backdrop. Other times, Oren was entirely alone with their work, the only companions being the steady glow of the lanterns and the soft, radiant warmth of the clay hearth. The process was slow, a meditation that spanned what might have been days in the world outside. Here, it was simply a long, unbroken period of peaceful, focused creation. Oren wove in threads that held the memory of the stars fading, the scent of night-blooming flowers closing their petals, and the feeling of the world holding its breath. Slowly, stitch by careful stitch, the tapestry grew. The single agitated thread was calmed, its story of discord gently woven into a new and larger story of peace. A beautiful fabric of deep, shifting blues and soft, pearlescent grays began to fill the frame, a perfect mirror of the pre-dawn sky. There were no more jarring flickers, only the slow, steady, and harmonious glow of the burgeoning, mended silence. Oren found a rhythm that felt as natural as breathing, the needle of starlight, an extension of their own calm intention. Finally, the moment came for the last thread. The tapestry was almost complete, a vast, beautiful expanse of tranquil light. Only a small corner remained to be filled. Oren chose the thread for this final touch with great care. It was one that held the faintest hint of warmth, the very first subtle promise of the approaching sun. It hummed with a low, hopeful note. As Oren wove this last thread into place, the entire tapestry seemed to sigh. Its light shifted, the deep blues and grays brightening with the softest hints of rose and pale gold. It was whole. A deep, resonant peace flooded the room, flowing from the mended silence. It was a quiet filled with potential, with the gentle energy of a new day beginning in perfect harmony. Oren stood before it, their work complete, and felt that same peace settle within their own heart. It was a stillness not of emptiness, but of wholeness, a reflection of the beautiful, unbroken tapestry before them. They had not just mended a silence, they had woven one, creating a bastion of calm from a single moment of discord. Later, Cale returned, and the two of them sat in their usual chairs by the hearth, mugs of warm chamomile tea in their hands. They sat facing Oren's completed work, which hung now on the wall, adding its unique, gentle radiance to the workshop's collection. No words of praise were needed. The shared, comfortable silence, deeper and richer now, for the presence of the newly mended dawn, was praise enough. Cale's small, warm smile said everything. Oren, no longer just an apprentice, but a mender of frayed silence, smiled back, feeling utterly, peacefully, and wonderfully at home.